Now, let's talk 20 miles an hour zones. Do you have one of these near you? I mean, these things are popping up pretty much all over the place now. And Rishi Sunak, he knows what he's doing, because many people would say now he is starting to take aim at some of these 20 mile an hour zones. You saw all that went on in Uxbridge when it came to things like ULEZ. Many people saying that there is a war on motorists. Rishi Sunak looking perhaps like he might start putting pressure on some of these councils that are wanting to enforce these 20 mile an hour zones to try and stop them. Cynical? Is that a vote winner or what? I don't know. You tell me. Let's get the view, though, of the founder of Stop Killing Cyclists and the director of the Climate Media Coalition, Donnachadh Mccarthy. Good evening to you. 20 mile an hour zones, do you support them?
Of course I do. They really make a significant difference to safety for kids. The Prime Minister really seems to be declaring a war on kids. 15,000 kids a year are dying are killed and injured on our roads. And so it's really important that we should actually maintain the 20 mile per zones and expand them in urban areas.
So, I mean, Rishi Sunak would obviously dispute that it's a war on kids, but if this is all about, in your mind, and protecting children, children are not out and about 24 hours a day. So even if I buy that notion, why aren't these limits timed then? So why don't they apply, I don't know, in the morning when kids are going to schools, or on the weekends when they might be out and about, and stop, say, I don't know, 9 p.m. at night?
Well, it's not just kids we want to save, it's actually adults as well. 135,000 adults and children were injured last year. The fatality rate was just announced this week, and it's gone up 10%. So the idea that we actually change the times of when 20 mile per hour zones are change it for a few streets in towns and cities would confuse drivers. This actually makes sense to have consistent speed limits in towns and cities. It's pro-kids, and it actually tackles confusion for drivers and reduces the amount of times that they will get fined unnecessarily.
One of my viewers, Shane, he's listening to the conversation. He's saying, can you ask your guest, if people are driving at 20 mile an hour, he's saying, surely don't they put more CO2 into the air driving than they would be driving at 30? Is that an argument or not?
That is said by some people, but what actually happens is, because the traffic is smoother, overall the pollution is the same. There has been studies done in Spain where they have introduced 20 mile per hour zone, and they found that pollution did not go up. But you introduced a segment talking about the war on motorists. I'm really tired of hearing that trite phrase. The real war is actually on safety, and the war is on people who use public transport. Over the last 10 years, the government has cut £113 billion off fuel duty, making fuel duty significantly cheaper for drivers. Was at the same time, they insisted every year the funding for, the fares for public transport should be above inflation, so really hammering the poor who don't have cars. And the second thing they did on the war on public transport is they slashed 50% of the bus routes in the United Kingdom since the Tories came to power. Can you imagine if we actually eliminated 50% of the roads in the last 10 years? Drivers would be then saying, rightly, there is a war on motorists. The real war is on kids' safety and on public transport under this government.
Well, there you go. You articulate your message well. That's Donnachadh Mccarthy. Thank you for your time. Do you agree with that? Has Rishi Sunak got a war on kids?
No, he hasn't got a war on kids. Look, I think Donnachadh is putting his case, but frankly, from the evidence I've seen, I mean, yes, around schools you have restricted zones, you have 20 miles an hour, but actually for the rest of areas, 30 miles an hour has worked extremely well. Look at the size of the petition in Wales. It's the biggest ever petition, I think, in this country. It's approaching 500,000 people now.
It is.
I think it's in the order of 25% of all adults in the whole of Wales. They are saying enough is enough. This is completely wrong. And the idea when you see a cyclist go past you when you're driving at 20 miles an hour, I mean, it just it's absurd.
It's not just cyclists, is it? Some people have those electric scooters that they tinker with. Those things can zip past you, can get up to quite high speeds if they've been tampered with, I'm sure. Labour seem to be pushing a lot of this stuff. So over in Wales, we've just been talking about the situation there. Why is that, do you think?
Well, I mean, I suspect because they believe it's the right thing to do, combined with the fact that they perhaps think it might be electorally popular. That's generally the reason why a political party does anything. I detect on this one, it's not universally popular.
Do you agree with it? Do you agree with these?
I have to say, I'm not opposed to it in principle. I dislike the idea. I'm not a car person. I dislike the idea of cars hurtling around our streets too quickly. I think it inhibits kids in terms of being able to play in the street. I think it's a nightmare for pedestrians sometimes. So I'm not actually opposed to the idea in principle, but I just think it's a bit silly to have different rules for different local authorities and allowing local authorities or devolved governments just to pick their own kind of rules when actually the road system is a national network, it's a national system. It strikes me that there should be a uniform policy for these things rather than going from one district into the next and finding that actually there's a different set of rules there. I do think there's an argument to say there are too many cars on our road. We need to find ways of getting people out of their cars, onto bicycles, onto public transport.
Hang on, but you can't go on a bicycle to get to work if you're driving 30 miles an hour if you live in the countryside.
No,
most people, to get to work, they need their cars, and this is what creates growth. It creates economic activity that actually then helps the least well off the most.
No, of course. Look, I'm not suggesting that people who live 30 miles from work can get... I mean, some people may choose to, but I accept that in that scenario most people can't. But I think it's fair to say also, Richard, that there are people, especially in some of our larger cities and towns, who drive to work who probably don't need to. And I think we need to find ways of encouraging those people to take public transport. But we need to invest in public transport, that's the thing.
Ian says, I live in Wales, and the blanket 20-mile-an-hour limit is a nightmare. He's put that in capitals, so I know he means business. He says it takes twice as long just to get to the dentist, as the A-class road going there is now 20 miles an hour. The thing
if you can find a dentist...
Well, that's what I was about to say. The thing that astonishes me more than anything about that sentence you just sent to me, Ian, is that you're even managing to get a dentist appointment in the first place.
He actually lives in London, but his dentist is in Wales.
He's got
double the pain whilst he's getting to the dentist.
We need to know, Ian, where is this dentist of yours that has these appointments?
There'll be a 4-mile queue outside tomorrow morning.
You'll never get there. Never mind your 20 mile an hour. Yeah, there'll be traffic jams. You'll be blocked in. You'll be getting nowhere. Anyway, I'm fascinated. Where is this dentist? Get in touch and let me know.